Have you ever stopped to think about how all the cool tech around us actually gets made? I'm talking about the smart car driving down your street, that high-tech medical device in a hospital, or even the 5G network that your phone is probably connected to right now. Well, behind so many of these breakthroughs, there's this kind of hidden engine of innovation. And today, we're going to pop the hood and take a look inside one of the key players powering it all, L&T Technology Services.
I mean, that's a huge question, right? How do the world's biggest companies invent the future? Because let's be real, it's not just about some light bulb moment or one brilliant idea. It's about super complex engineering, having deep, specialized knowledge in a dozen different fields, and doing it all at lightning speed. So how on earth do the giants of industry actually stay ahead of the curve? Well, the answer, it's probably not what you'd expect.
Okay, so let's dive right into the core of the problem here, what we're calling the Global Innovation Challenge. See, for the biggest companies out there, this constant pressure to innovate and evolve, it's not just a nice-to-have goal, it's literally a matter of survival. For these massive companies, standing still is just not an option. It's like being on a treadmill that's constantly getting faster. You've got to develop new products, you've got to get them to market faster than your competitors, and you have to keep up with all these changing regulations. But here's the kicker, the big problem. Trying to build an in-house team of experts for every single new technology that pops up, it's pretty much impossible. And this is where things get really interesting. See, the old way of doing things, keeping all your research and development under one roof, it's just too slow and way too expensive. And think about it. What happens when something like generative AI just explodes onto the scene out of nowhere? You can't just spend 2 years building a team. You need that expertise like yesterday. And that is the gap. That's the need. Companies are desperate for a partner who can give them access to world-class, specialized engineering talent pretty much on demand. So you have this huge problem, this massive gap in the market. And of course, that creates a massive opportunity. And it's an opportunity that's been filled by a whole new kind of company, one that is completely dedicated to engineering the exact solutions these global giants are looking for. And that brings us right to L&T Technology Services, or LTTS for short. They're what's known as a pure-play engineering services firm, which is just a fancy way of saying they've built their entire business, their whole reason for being, around solving this one exact innovation problem. So what these guys do has a name. It's called Engineering R&D, or ER&D Services. The idea behind it is actually super simple but really powerful. Basically, instead of a big company trying to be a master of everything, they partner up with a specialist like LTTS. LTTS handles all the nitty-gritty, complex engineering that goes into making the next big thing. This frees up the company to do what they do best, while getting to tap into this incredible global pool of engineering talent. All right, so we've been calling it a technology engine. But what does that actually look like on the inside? Let's take a peek under the hood and see just how diverse their work really is. Okay, the first thing that really jumps out at you is just how broad their work is. I mean, they're everywhere. They're in transportation, think cars and airplanes. They're in industrial products, telecom and high tech, medical devices, even massive plant engineering projects. So one day they're helping develop autonomous driving systems, and the next they're working on life-saving hospital equipment or the 5G networks we all use. And that diversity is a huge advantage because ideas from one industry can spark breakthroughs in another. And listen, this isn't just about having a bunch of smart engineers on call. This is about creating real, deep, intellectual property. Get this, LTTS has filed over 1,600 patents, and they're clearly focused on the future because over 200 of those patents are in AI alone. That tells you they're not just executing on other people's plans, they're inventing the future themselves. And, a culture like that doesn't go unnoticed. There's this investor community called Value Picker, and these folks are known for doing incredibly deep research on companies. And they really hit the nail on the head. The consensus there is that what makes LTTS different from just another IT company is that for them, innovation is literally in their DNA.
Okay, that all sounds super impressive, right? But the big question is always, does the model actually work? Is it making money? Well, the answer is a pretty resounding yes, and you can see it clear as day in the numbers. First off, demand for what they do is just surging. I mean, in just a single recent quarter, LTTS locked in new large deals worth nearly $300 million. And we're not talking about small one-off projects here. These are huge, multi-year contracts with some of the biggest companies in the world. That right there shows you the incredible level of trust they've built.
And you can see that story playing out in their revenue growth. For a while, they were growing at a really strong 13% average per year. But they've actually kicked it into a higher gear,
recently hitting year-over-year growth of almost 16%. The momentum is undeniable.
So, who exactly are these clients? Well, we're talking about the absolute biggest names in business. Get this, LTTS is the trusted engineering partner for 52 of the Fortune 500 companies. This just proves that what they offer isn't some little niche service. It's a core part of the strategy for the most successful companies on the planet.
Now, they are a global company, for sure, but their biggest market, by a long shot, is North America. It makes up more than half of their total revenue. And while, sure, some investors might see that as a risk, having a lot of eggs in one basket, it also shows just how successful they've been in tapping into one of the most innovative and lucrative economies in the world. So, if your entire company is built on innovation, where do you go next? What's the next big wave? Well, for LTS, the answer is clear. They are going all in on the single biggest tech revolution of our lifetime, artificial intelligence.
And you really can't get much clearer than hearing it straight from the top. The CEO, Amit Chadha, has laid it out plain and simple. He says they are pivoting to become an AI-first company. And they're not just talking about any AI. They're focused on the really hard stuff, applying AI to the physical world of engineering, industry, and machines.
So their whole AI strategy really rests on three main pillars. First up is generative AI, using it to make the whole design and engineering process way faster and smarter. Next, they're working on something called agentic AI. This is where you create systems that can actually think and make decisions for themselves. And finally, the really big one, what some might call the holy grail, physical AI. This is all about embedding that intelligence directly into the physical machines that make our world go round. And hey, this isn't just some fuzzy vision for the future they put on a PowerPoint slide. It's happening right now. They're already making money from it. LTTS has rolled out its own set of AI platforms that clients are using today to speed up their work and build that intelligence right into their products from day one. Of course, they're not trying to do all this alone. To make sure they stay right on the bleeding edge, they've teamed up with some of the biggest names in the game. We're talking AI chip makers, tech giants, and even legendary research hubs. It's all about making sure they're always at the very forefront of what's even possible. Which really leaves us with one last big question to think about. As this digital world of AI starts to merge completely with the physical world of engineering, the whole game of invention is changing. The winners of tomorrow will be the ones who can master both of these worlds. And it just might be that the hidden engines, these specialized companies like LTTS, are the ones who are actually holding the blueprints to our future.